welcome. It is Wednesday, March 9th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. This is the monthly meeting of the Urbana Human Relations Commission. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stacy Burnett, Asa Kokanazi-Leggett.
Here.
Peter Resnick.
Here.
Julie Robinson Schaefer.
Here.
Greg Schroeder.
Here.
And we have, by the skin of our teeth, a quorum. Well, thank you all for coming. Before we get started, we do, as you will notice, have a new commission member. So by way of ritual embarrassment, I'll ask Greg to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about what he does and how he came to join the commission.
Hi, my name is Greg. I moved to Urbana a year and a half ago and have been working at DSC in employer outreach and education, but will be moving to a university position in a couple weeks. I was recruited by ASACO.
Well,
May I ask what general area on the university you'll be working in? I don't want to get into the actual job.
OVCRI.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
It's my parent unit, so.
The whole world is connected here in Little Urbana. Well, welcome, Greg. Thank you for volunteering to take this on. It's much appreciated. So we have an agenda. I would entertain a motion for approval of that agenda.
I'll move to approve.
Anyone second? There's only two more people who get to choose to second the motion, please.
I will second.
All right, we have a motion by Julie, a second by Greg. Any changes, updates to the agenda? Everything look good? All right. With that, we will have a roll call vote on approval of the agenda. Please answer, Tamara, yes or no. Tamara, would you please call the roll?
Asa Kokanazi-Leggett.
Yes.
Peter Resnick.
Yes.
Julie Robinson Schaefer.
Find the mute. Yes.
Thank you.
Greg Schroeder.
Yes.
That motion carries. And just so Greg knows, when we're back in person, we won't have to do these roll call votes for the little things, but because we're online, that's a requirement. So we have one set of minutes from February 9th, 2022 for our last meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Oh. That's a motion by Asako. Do I have a second?
I will second.
All right, motion by Asako, second by Julie. Any discussion, changes to the minutes?
One misspelling, and this is just me being super detailed, but commission is misspelled in number 8 announcements.
Thank you, Julie.
I read agreements for a living.
I appreciate that.
Gotta
I
get the
appreciate the
typos.
corrections.
All right, with that, I'll take it as a friendly amendment. Is there any further discussion? Will Tamara please call the roll?
Asa Kokanazi-Leggett.
Yes.
Peter Resnick.
Yes.
Julie Robinson Schaefer.
Yes.
Greg Schroeder.
Yes.
Great. Our next item on the agenda is for public participation. There is currently no one in the attendees list in the Zoom call, and there's no one here in the room with me. So hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. I don't see any items in unfinished business. Is that correct, Carla? All right. Then moving on to new business. And our one item is the EEO workforce statistics. Carla, do you want to introduce these? Anything in particular we need to look out for?
I do want to mention that I reached out to Online Solutions in anticipating that you guys may have a question about their hiring practices because there wasn't anything in there. And so they did reach out. So I'm hoping that you did have an opportunity to read the email exchange between us. The numbers are kind of all over the place. But if you want to just walk through them one at a time, did everyone have an opportunity to review them? Okay, so with A&R Mechanical Services, they are a renewal for concrete, excavation, site utilities, 16 employers. They're typically when they're 20 and under, you guys kind of give them a certification because of their numbers and the understanding of because of the low numbers what that meant. So I would, I didn't have a whole lot for them, understanding that they were under 20. Citizen Serve, they are under contract with the city. The reason they're coming before us is because they're at the point in their contract where it's going to take them above the EEO threshold. And so they need to have the EEO certification. They have 21 employees. And I was like, there's one employee over the limit, but I will allow you guys to make that determination. Clark Dietz, they're consulting engineers. And they're not construction, and it's not a renewal. So you would see that their tables B and C were not completed, I think. Oh no, C was.
Yeah, we've seen it before. I don't know if
it's a renewal.
Sometime, yeah.
Yeah, they are a renewal. I'm sorry, I read my notes wrong. They are a renewal. And they had some changeover with some of their employees. If you look at the spreadsheet that you have, you can see where how the numbers break down for each company. As always, I don't like to give recommendations because I would just hope that everyone would receive certification. And so I'm not going to be try to bias or anything, but I would just prefer that you guys make your decision on what they are. But some of them are. Their numbers are just they're all over. There's some really large ones, and what does that mean versus some really small ones? What does that mean? And so, all in all, I think everybody provided everything that is required. And I know Tamara worked with a lot of the companies to make sure that they had all of their information in or provide more explanation as well as I did. So you should have everything, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I'll make two comments to get discussion started. One of which is A&R, although as Carla mentioned, they're under the 20 employee threshold, so we would normally approve them anyway. One other note about A&R is one of our renewers who we've seen before, who has the issue with hiring union labor, and therefore their numbers are sort of dependent on the union numbers. And that's a topic that we're taking on this year, trying to look at how to communicate with the unions and maybe come up with procedures to address those sorts of issues. The only other thing I would mention, I was glad Carla pointed out tables B and C. C in particular gives you an idea of where they've been hiring in the recent past. And I find those numbers instructive mostly because they let us know whether they're making an attempt to hire minority employees, even if their numbers overall aren't too great. So I think those are always well worth a look. Saying that, does someone want to make a motion, at least for purposes of discussion, for approvals for any or all of the contractors?
So I will move to approve, but I am not good at the time limits.
So again, I'll remind you that 2 years is our normal. We approve for them to just go ahead and contract with the city, and 1 year or in exceptional circumstances, 6 months is our approval for, we approve them for the time being, but we will send them a letter asking them to provide us with, what they are doing the next time they come up for approval with regard to hiring. If we leave them out of the approval, we can either ask them for more information, or if we think more information is necessary, or we can just start discussions of whether we want to, talk about whether they are actually making good faith efforts to hire.
Okay.
So 1 year, 6 months, and leave them off the list.
Okay. So I will make the following motion, and I will entertain any friendly amendments that anybody wants to put out there. So A&R, I will move for 2 years. Clark Dietz, I will move for 2 years. Federal Signal, 2 years. Lockmuller, 2 years. Online, I believe they're new, looking at their information, 1 year, but we'll entertain amendments. And SHI, I will move for 2 years. So that's the motion.
Okay. Does someone want to second that motion? And again, can just be for purposes of discussion, and we can make amendments as we see fit. I saw a hand. Thank you. All right. So we have a motion by Julie, a second by Asako. Any discussion?
So I have discussion because Carla brought up a good point. The online solutions is one individual over. So I guess, and I apologize, Carla, because I may have missed where you said they are a current contracted entity with the city. So I may friendly amend my own to 2 years, because obviously if they're one over, I don't necessarily want to be punitive in how we approve them, knowing that such a small entity may have trouble meeting those preferred percentages. So
They work with our contracting with our IT and
okay. I did see software in there, so yes.
Yeah.
And so they are a renewal, you said?
Let me see what they are.
Because if
They
they're
are the
a
ones that
renewal-
are reaching the limit.
The limits,
for-
yeah. So they are new.
They're
because
new as far as an
because of
application.
their, yeah. They have a long-term contract, but they're at a stage where they need to have the EEO certification.
And Julie, one thing you can do if you want to stay with the 1 year, but put, ask Carla to put specific language in the letter saying, we understand that, you're a small company, you're over our limit, but maybe provide us with some information next year when you renew about this, that, or the other thing. I think some of that is standard for what we put in the letter anyway, but we can, be a little more specific if we want.
Yeah. And I'm reading through the, discussion it looks like Carla had with their contact, and looking at their recruitment efforts, which are, valid and seem to be, pretty straightforward. I guess the only concern I had is that they don't advertise recruitment. I thought that was interesting in their section 2, if advertising is used, and they said they don't advertise recruitments. So I guess I have some questions there, that if they're only going to college career fairs, are they really getting a representative sample of available candidates?
And, again, Carla can word the letter in, and I presume she does, as friendly a way as possible. It says, we've got concerns and we're going to, want to hear how it's going next year. But something to that effect is fine. Any other discussion of the other approvals? questions by anybody? Yeah, Greg, go ahead.
With Clark Dietz, just looking at the turnover, I see that they had, just looking at upper management, one minority female separated. They hired, in terms of officials and managers, 4 white males. And so just looking at a little loss of representation in the upper management there. I don't know if that's something of concern. I'm new here.
No, we value new opinions especially. So, do you have a suggestion? Would you want to change the suggested 2 years to something else? Feel welcome to jump in. That's quite all right. As Julie said,
as it's a renewal, I feel that they're familiar with our processes, and so I would question perhaps dropping it to 1 year, asking how they're how they're approaching change. That they have 127 employees and 3 of them are Black.
Oh, so I'll formulate Greg's comment as a friendly amendment request, Julie. What do you think?
I have no concerns with that amendment.
As the seconder, Asako, are you okay with that friendly amendment?
Yeah, that sounds very good.
All right. So,
phrasing.
Yeah, no, quite all right. As you will notice, we are not highly strict about our invocation of Robert's rules, but just so it gets written down properly in the minutes. So we have a friendly amendment that's been adopted to have Clark Dietz be a 1-year approval with a letter. Any other discussion? Everybody's okay with the rest? So I've got a motion. Let me get my sheet back up here. I've got a motion to approve A&R Mechanical for 2 years, Clark Dietz for 1 year with a letter, Federal Signal Corporation for 2 years, Lockmuller Group for 2 years, Online Solutions LLC for 1 year with a letter, and SHI International Corp for 2 years. Did I get that right, Julie? Good. That is the motion on the table. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Asako Kanazi Leggett,
Yes.
Peter Resnick,
Yes.
Julie Robinson Schaefer,
Yes.
Greg Schroeder,
Yes.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Moving on. Oops. Too many windows open on the screen. Moving on, seeing no further new business, we are at officers' report. Carla.
Okay. There are no closed cases. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, I have no. There were no informal complaints, and for Mr. Schroeder, sometimes we get calls into the office for complaints where we don't have jurisdiction over whatever the issue is, and so we refer them on to who they need to talk with. And I may have shared those jurisdictions with you when we met.
Yes.
And then the investigations for the 4 housing complaints concerning source of income are continuing. I did reach out to all 4 respondents, reminding them about conciliation and the process of conciliation. I have not heard back if anyone is interested in doing conciliation. So that investigation will continue. As far as community activity, an advertisement for the HRC vacancies has been placed in the Urbana newsletter and it's been posted on Facebook. And we're continuing to share it with community members to spread the word. That's how we got Mr. Schroeder. Participated in the interviewing and onboarding process for our new commissioner, Mr. Schroeder. Networking opportunities. I met with Dr. Justin Arnold from the RPC, Regional Planning Commission, for a workforce and equity discussion. And he says that he works with a lot of the union leadership and that he was going to make some introductions for me so we can start building that relationship. He also introduced me to some of the department heads at RPC because I went to another meeting, the Reentry Council, and they were talking that how they didn't understand the differences between the Champaign ordinance and the Urbana ordinance and the two additional protections that Urbana provides. And so one of the leaders there, she suggested that I talk with the RPC counselors for housing. And so he's made that introduction, and I will be meeting with that person on the 25th of this month. I met with Gloria Yin of the Welcome Center for an overview of their services and how the Office of Human Rights and Equity can be a partner or assist in their efforts. And I have linked Gloria with our community engagement coordinator for the city of Urbana. I was interviewed by a U of I journalism student concerning housing discrimination. And I hope that it garnered him an A because there wasn't a whole lot I could share with him because some of the questions that he asked, I wouldn't be able to give him that kind of information. But I did give him a broad overview of what the office does and how we handle discrimination cases, what cases I've seen since I've been here, and just some anecdotal things. But some of the heavier lifting, I wouldn't be able to answer those questions for him. I am developing a working relationship with the Housing Authority of Champaign County. With their staff. I attended the Housing Choice Voucher briefing meeting to get a better understanding of what the responsibilities and expectations information is provided to the Housing Choice Voucher recipients, because in my short time, often when I'm talking with the persons the complainant, they aren't really sure about how the voucher works. And so I wanted to find out what are they told so that I would have that information. So I would be, in addition, this is what I know, this is how it works, that kind of thing. And I always tell them to please reach out to their specialist, their housing specialist. But it helps me to understand what is actually, how the process works. And so I'm building that relationship. And also they will be a wonderful resource as I move forward with complaints, because all of my complaints but one have been about housing choice vouchers. And so I really need to be educated from them and to also have them as a strong partner so I could get information from them. And I sent the commissioners a link for the Attorney General's office. They sponsored the webinars for Open Meetings Act for some of them are for law enforcement and FOIA and things like that. So they're not required. But I participated in those last year when they sent them out, and they were very interesting, especially with the FOIA and what can be FOIA'd and how, and the how-tos and things like that. And the Open Meetings Act is also was really interesting, and to see how that translated with law enforcement was even more interesting. If you haven't completed the OMA training, please do so. And if you have, please send me a copy of your certificate so that I can put that on file. And that's all that I have. And I can take that either electronic or physical.
I have a question about that, and I apologize if it's been clarified and I completely missed it. Do we do that training annually or just initially?
I believe it's annually.
Okay. And do we have that link in the email that you sent?
Yes.
Okay.
Not in the one with the webinars, but I sent it.
Yep. I've got it.
Okay.
Yep. I apologize. I will take care of that.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
It takes a little bit to get through, but it's not too bad.
And that's all that I have.
Yes, there are many trainings at the state level. So.
Tamara, did you want to? I just wanted to give Tamara an opportunity because we work in tandem. Did you have anything?
No, I don't. I think you pretty much covered everything well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Carla or Tamara? All right, thanks. Then we move on to our next agenda item, which is announcements. Does anybody have any announcements to make? Very good. Then we get to move on to the most fun part of the agenda, which is adjournment. So seeing no other business before the commission, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for attending and welcome again, Greg. Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.